President Trump challenges both Joe Biden and Fox News host Chris Wallace to an IQ test. The battle between Georgia's Republican governor and Atlanta's Democrat mayor takes a new turn. Plus, things are getting so crazy in Oregon that some people are ready to become part of Idaho. All that and more. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour.
And God bless the United States of America.
All right, friends, welcome to the show. Happy Monday. I hope you had a great weekend. Mine was absolutely crazy with the Republican Party of Texas State Convention, all virtual. It was memorable to say the least. And we'll get into that later this weekend with our special guest. It'll be a great discussion. But if you're new to the show, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to start with President Trump's interview with Fox News' Chris Wallace, because it was a wide-ranging interview. They talked about coronavirus and healthcare and reopening schools and on, but Wallace was being Wallace, and we've seen it over and over again. He's so, just the smirks and the smugness. Here is how he introduced the topic of polling.
Mr. President, you'll be happy to know that Fox News has a new poll out today, and you're going to be the very first person to hear about it. In the national horse race, Joe Biden leads you by 8 points, 49% to 41.
I mean, what is that? Did you see that little look on his face? Mr. President, we've got a new poll, and you'll be happy to know, as if he's about to present good news, you'll be happy to know that you get to hear it first. I mean, how lame is that? And here's the president's response.
First of all, I'm not losing, because those are fake polls. They were fake in 2016, and now they're even more fake. The polls were much worse in 2016. They interviewed 22% Republican. Well, how do you do 22% Republican? You see what's going on.
Well, the president is right about polling. The Fox News polls always undersample Republicans. You can look at the data. Every single poll, Republicans are undersampled, sometimes up to 10 percentage points different. It's absolutely amazing that they keep doing this. And plus, the poll is also registered voters, which never gives an accurate indication. It's much more accurate to use likely voters. And once again, they make their overlays, they make their news reports based on polling of registered voters that oversamples Democrats. How is that supposed to be reliable? And who cares anyway in the middle of the summer when no one pays attention to politics? This is dead. This is like dead air. They're filling dead air with polling stories that have absolutely no relevance at all. So that was that part. But then things actually did get interesting when they turned to Joe Biden.
Biden can't put two sentences together. They wheel him out. He goes up. He repeats. They ask him questions. He reads a teleprompter, and then he goes back into his basement. You tell me the American people want to have that in an age where we're in trouble with other nations that are looking to do numbers on us.
Nice. So then Wallace asked President Trump if Joe Biden was actually senile. And here's how the president responded.
I don't want to say that. I say he's not competent to be president. To be president, you have to be sharp and tough and so many other things. He doesn't even come out of his basement.
All right, so I just love that. And actually, this is a version of Hillary Clinton's campaign. She did somewhat of the same thing. If you recall, she avoided all the big interviews. She avoided all the controversy, the in-depth discussions, the real questions. Sure, she'd sit on a couch for Ellen or something like that, kick back, laughing, and, with elitist, leftist, one here and one there, talking about their afternoon teas or whatever. It's just outrageous. She never did the hard interview. Joe Biden takes it to a whole new level. He doesn't come out of his basement. He just stays there and sends out press releases written by someone else, comments by someone else, because his staff knows that if he is unleashed, if he goes out there, he's going to say ridiculous stuff. The thing about the Declaration of Independence or truth over facts, he doesn't know what he's saying. His staff knows that, so they just tuck him away. And the far left, they absolutely love it because they know he is empty and controllable. He just wants to win, and they are going to push a far left fringe agenda through this empty suit. It's absolutely outrageous. So then back in the interview, President Trump laid down the challenge.
Well, I tell you what, let's take a test. Let's take a test right now. Let's go down. Joe and I will take a test. Let him take the same test that I took.
Incidentally, I took the test too when I heard that you passed it.
Yeah, how did
It's
you
not
do
the
it?
Well, it's not the hardest test.
So apparently Wallace is ready to take him on. Of course he is. He knows everything. But what about Joe Biden?
You couldn't answer. You couldn't answer.
All right, what's the question?
Many of the questions. I'd get you the test. I'd like to give it. But I guarantee you that Joe Biden could not answer those questions.
Okay.
So who would win? President Trump is ready to take on Chris Wallace and Joe Biden in an IQ test. Are they up for the challenge? Will Joe Biden do it? I just love this. I love the way President Trump, he doesn't take anything from the media, and he sure doesn't take anything from Joe Biden. But with all the joking and the jest and IQ test, it does bring up an important question. Can Joe Biden handle the presidency? We've seen him in public when he can go off on his own and it doesn't make sense. Plus, this is the man, along with Barack Obama, that's responsible for all the corruption, the real Ukraine scandals, the spying on the Trump campaign. Joe Biden was there. He knew about it. He knew it was going on, and he wants to be our president. So not only is this guy corrupt, along with his son, but he can't handle the job. I'd love to see this IQ test. So let me know in the comments. President Trump, Chris Wallace, Joe Biden. Who wins the IQ test? All right, so next we're going to go to a follow-up story on what's going on in Georgia. But first, if you're new to the show or if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. And when you do, please hit that bell so you'll be notified. We're making our push for 100,000 subscribers by Election Day. 100K by Election Day, and we can do it with your help. All right, so on Friday, I talked about this battle that's going on between Georgia's Republican governor, Brian Kemp, and the Democrat mayor in Atlanta. It's nuts. She is mandating mask wearing, and the Republican governor says, you can't do that. You don't have the authority within the state to order people to wear masks in public. Now, Brian Kemp, the governor, has recommended it. He thinks people should do it, but it is not a mandate that Atlanta is doing. That's the stink. It's resulted in a lawsuit, but guess what? Now, the mayor, she thinks that she knows the real motivation behind this. And no, it's not the rule of law or constitutional authority. She says it's sexism and racism. Here's the story. Democratic Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms implied that Republican Georgia Governor Brian Kemp's lawsuit regarding coronavirus restrictions could be motivated by sexism and racism. Kemp issued a statewide executive order last week that banned municipalities from issuing mandatory mask mandates stricter than state guidelines, then sued the city of Atlanta for defying the order, naming Bottoms and city council members as defendants. So that's the background. Then Bottoms went on CBS's Face the Nation this weekend to explain why this was all going on, to pass along her theories on what motivated this. And here's the story. So the governor said this week that it was the racial injustice protests that led to the rise of infections that's happening in the state right now, said CBS Face the Nation host Margaret Brennan. What role did they play? Why do you think the infections are spiking? The blame game is most unusual, Bottoms replied. There were other cities in our state who instituted mask mandates, and he did not push back against them. I don't know if it's perhaps because they were led by men, or if it's perhaps because of the demographic in the city of Atlanta. I don't know what the answers are. So this is so typical of a Democrat, folks. They don't argue the merits. They do not argue the merits at all. They shout, they scream, they yell, they say they're right. Then when you question them, you're a racist. You're a bigot. You're sexist. That's their reply. That's their reply to questions based on facts, trying to get people to debate. They won't even debate because they know the facts aren't on their side. And they also know, though, that people don't pay attention. That if you throw out sexism or racism or bigotry, people freak out. And that's what they do it. These are trigger words, trigger actions that are led to disparage someone rather than debating that person. Because if you can paint someone as a bad guy, then it means anything they say has no merit. Doesn't matter how right that person is, how accurate they are, how on the right side of the issue they are. Doesn't matter. It's a bad person. You can't believe them. You can't trust them. That's what the Democrats do. It's such a finely tuned approach, and they do it over and over again. You see it everywhere. They've all read the playbooks, all Alinsky, and they execute it. It doesn't matter if the person is running for president or a mayor. They all know it. They all do it. But it's up to us not only to decipher it, but to get that message out to other people and say, look what they're doing. The facts are not on her side, and she won't even argue the merits. She says this is racism and sexism. Got to look through that, got to see through that, and also inform our friends on what is actually going on. So next, I got to tell you what's going on in Oregon, because it's crazy. People are getting fed up. But first, I've got to tell you about my friends over at WorldFare. Please check them out. If you have a photograph, an architectural sketch, even an automobile, they can turn it into a handmade work of art. I have sketches of every house I've ever lived in hanging on my wall, and people always notice it. They talk about it. It makes a great gift, makes a great conversation piece. Please check them out. Go to WorldFare link in the description and use coupon code Bobby13 for 10% off your next purchase. And just a little side note, it's my daughter's company, and she does do a great job. So please check it out. All right, so next we're going to talk about Oregon, because folks are going crazy there. They're going crazy all across the country. And all you have to do is look at these states run by Democrats. These states run by Democrats, these cities run by Democrat mayors, and you see what's going on. In Oregon, they've got crazy lockdown orders. People are getting sick about it. Portland is rioting and rioting and rioting all the time. This weekend again, they put out a riot notice, and it doesn't stop. Well, people are getting sick of it, and there is one portion of folks that want to get carved out and become part of Idaho. And here's the story. Rural Oregonians are ready to bolt for Idaho after nearly 2 months of daily protests and rioting in Portland. Move Oregon's border for a Greater Idaho, a group that seeks to take eastern and rural counties out of Oregon and put them in Idaho, reached a milestone Saturday. It announced that volunteers have collected enough signatures to place the initiative on the November ballot in Wallowa County, Oregon. Can you believe that? There is now a ballot initiative to separate from Oregon and join Idaho. It's like enough is enough. We can't take it anymore. We want to be part of Idaho. And here's more of the story. Fueling the separatist effort, Oregon Governor Kate Brown's coronavirus shutdown and the escalating protest violence in Portland. People declared a riot Saturday night after hundreds of activists attacked the North Precinct and ignited a fire inside the Portland Police Association's office. We want to move the border because the political atmosphere in Oregon is getting too intense, Michael McCarter, president of Greater Idaho, said in a release. We've seen political violence in Portland and Eugene this year, and it could get worse. Instead of fighting, Oregon could just let citizens in each region of the state choose which state's governance is more suitable to them. So the story goes on to report that, of course, this is a long shot. It has not happened. The state hasn't changed its border since West Virginia carved itself out in 1863. So chances are likely it won't happen, but you see what's going on. People are getting fed up with this. They're fed up of the rioting and the looting, and they see that Democrats are keeping states shut down while others are reopening, and there's no correlation. You see Florida with coronavirus was much more freer. California was much more shut down, and they're both seeing rises. So there's no correlation between the open too early or stay shut down. These Democrats want to keep people shut down, keep control over them, and hurt President Trump. That is the ultimate motivation, the ultimate strategy that they are doing. And the violence in the cities, these Democrat cities, there's no rule of law. There's actually support for the rioting and the looting. The Democrats won't even take a stand for the rule of law. And who knows what's going to happen in Oregon? Maybe the piece will be carved out and we'll get a greater, bigger Idaho. We'll see. So next, I want to talk about Mark Meadows, the White House Chief of Staff. He was talking this weekend about the Durham report, and it looks like they are close to actually producing some results. Maybe some folks will be prosecuted. Hopefully some will go to jail, because what happened with the spying on the Trump campaign through the Obama-Biden administration is absolutely illegal, outrageous abuse of power that the media will not talk about. Well, he was on the news talking about it. They are getting closer, and here's the story. White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows said Sunday that it's time for people to go to jail as part of U.S. Attorney John Durham's probe into FBI misconduct, prompting ex-Trump aide George Papadopoulos to sound a celebratory note on Twitter. I think the American people are expecting indictments, Meadows told anchor Maria Bartiromo. I expect indictments based on the evidence I've seen. Lindsey Graham did a good job in getting that out. We know that they not only knew there wasn't a case, but they continued to investigate and spy. So much of this investigation involves Trump campaign advisor Carter Page. He was spied on. The whole Steele dossier was used to get warrants to spy on him. We know it was bogus. And there's also General Michael Flynn, who was spied on before President Trump even became president. And here's more of the story. Internal FBI documents that emerged in April showed that Peter Strzok, the now disgraced anti-Trump former head of FBI counterintelligence, ordered the investigation of former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn to remain open even after it was slated to be closed due to a lack of so-called derogatory information. Strzok pursued an investigation based on the Logan Act, a law never used in a successful prosecution, and that was intended to prevent individuals from falsely representing the U.S. government abroad in a pre-telephone era. Yeah, the Logan Act was designed when you traveled by boat and took months to get to Britain or France, that you wouldn't be misrepresenting the country. That's what Strzok was trying to use, and it's absolutely outrageous. Then there's the Carter Page side, and the story has a nice summary of that, and here it is. The Justice Department's watchdog has identified critical errors in every FBI wiretap application that it audited as part of the fallout from the Bureau's heavily flawed investigation into former Trump advisor Carter Page, who was surveilled during the campaign in part because of a largely discredited dossier funded by the Hillary Clinton campaign and the Democrat National Committee. The FBI repeatedly accused Page of being a foreign agent in its warrant applications. Page has not been charged with any wrongdoing, and the DOJ has since admitted that its warrant applications lacked probable cause and should not have been sought. Lacked probable cause, yet they pursued it anyway, they spied on him anyway, they went after Michael Flynn as well, and we see what happens. So far, no one's in jail. No one's been prosecuted. This is corruption at its highest. Yet, President Trump, before he's even in office, he's spied on. And it's been nonstop attack over and over. There's Mueller, there's Russia, there's Ukraine. You name it, they go after him. Here's the real wrongdoing, the real illegal activity, the real corruption, and hopefully something will come out of it. So folks, that's our show for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe, and when you do, please hit that bell so you'll be notified, and we'll see you next time. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour. Okay, friends, thanks so much for watching, and before you go, please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell so you'll be notified, and here's a special video just for you so you can watch even more of the 13-minute news hour. And don't forget to check out GOPUSA.com for the best in conservative news and commentary. We'll see you next time.